Good morning, this is Dr. Farley, and today I want to go over the journal that I just received for June 15th, 2021, volume 223, supplement 3. This is the Journal of Infectious Diseases, and basically this is talking about the state of the microbiome science at the intersection of infectious disease and antimicrobial resistance. And then there's a little diagram on here. I'm going to have the journal referenced at the bottom of this video, so if you want to click on it, you can at least get to it. I'm not sure you'll be able to get to all of the different articles, but maybe, because I pay for this to come in. But in here, what we basically talk about is that there's a connection between pathogens, bugs, germs, your microbiome, and then the ability of your immune system to respond to it. And the other big component that I want to talk about with this also is that the nervous system is the master nervous system, and that nervous system has the ultimate control over this entire process. So the brain, spinal cord, and nerves is actually regulating all of this. And again, there's the pathogen, there's the person, and then there's the microbiome. Okay, so inside of you, you have 9 systems, but there's actually a 10th system called the microbiome. And the microbiome is all throughout the body, but we have it in specific areas that we look at. And, we know, let me get this down here exactly. So we know that the microbiome is involved with many different things. And we also know that the microbiome can be influenced by what we're doing, good or bad. So in the microbiome, we have various different areas. Hold on one second. I'll get you my exact what I'm trying to explain to you. Yes, here we go. Okay, so there's an ecosystem that lives inside of us. And what we also know from the Human Microbiome Project, Human Microbiome Project, which came out after the Genetic Project. Basically, this program received $170 million in funding from the National Institutes of Health from 2007 through 2017. They were trying to map the entire microbiome. And what we now know is there's probably a 10-to-1 ratio. So if we have 70 trillion Dr. Farley cells, we have 700 trillion microbiome that live inside of us. And by the way, this microbiome is made up of archaea, yeasts, bacteria, single-celled eukaryotes, helminths, parasites, viruses, and even other viruses now that are infecting different organisms like bacteriophages. So this is all within the microbiome. And the main areas are the gastrointestinal, accounts for about 85%, vaginal, skin, oral, respiratory sites. So we have this microbiome all throughout the body. It's a network of these commensal microbes that work with us. And what I also found interesting in reading about this was that it says over a time frame that the microbiome can be thrown off, but over a time frame it seems to reestablish a new norm. And as it reestablishes that new norm, from whatever reason threw it off, then over a time frame this state of equilibrium has now, in a sense, permanently changed. What happens over a time frame is our allostatic stress load, which comes from physical, chemical, mental, emotional, and autosuggestion, can throw off this microbiome. And then the microbiome now has a new diversity, new numbers, and really although it gets back into a balance, it's not the same microbiome if we've tweaked it over a time frame by either not having a vaginal birth or taking too many drugs, eating GMO foods, antibiotics, anything else, too many carbohydrates. That will shift the microbiome. And now over a time frame, our microbiome, instead of having a benefit to us starts to become a chronic stressor on us. And it may forever increase a patient's allostatic stress load. So if the stress load inside of someone is supposed to idle at 1,000, now because the microbiome has been changed from all these different things we just spoke about, now we're idling at 5,000, 6,000. Now the microbiome starts to not do what we want it to do, and over a time frame becomes a chronic stressor to our overall health. So then we talked in here also, under this, in the same journal, they talk about fecal transplant. And I looked this up just to get an idea. These fecal transplants can have a crazy cost over time. They can be up to $16,000 for a fecal transplant. So we basically take the microbiome from a healthy person and we transplant it into an unhealthy person. By the way, yes, the microbiome needs to be tended to, but this now becomes a medical procedure instead of understanding how we can influence our microbiome in a positive direction. And it's much more than pre and probiotics. So anyway, now we're taking this 10th system and we're turning this into a medical problem once again. And now we're going to try to take a fecal transplant from this patient and put it inside this patient to help with their microbiome to then influence their health in the right direction. So I just thought that what we need to know is that the microbiome is a major player. Again, you've got the little triangle of the pathogen, germs, the host, you, and the microbiome. And they all play back and forth. But the overriding regulation of that tripod is the central nervous system. So this is why, in my opinion, the brain-based care is so important for firing down properly to the gut, influencing the microbiome. And then we have the gut-brain axis and the microbiome-brain axis, and they play on each other back and forth. So I think that the idea that we're now recognizing the microbiome as a major player in health is a significant step in the right direction. I think that we have to get rid of this idea that we're going to manipulate it with drugs, or that we should only look at this in a sense of when a person's in major crisis and now we're going to do a fecal transplant on the patient. We have to go back and understand how the microbiome develops, why the microbiome may get out of balance, and what we can do to influence it and keep it healthy with proper diversity, proper number, and then over a time frame allow that 10th system to influence our health and our immunity and our brains and our hormones and our weight and our digestion in a positive direction. So thank you. Any questions, as always, please let me know. Thanks.